Hi everyone, and welcome back to another video. In this video, we're going to work through part 4 of our series going through the trusted AD chain on Vulnlab. Now the AD chains on Vulnlab are really cool. This is more than just one machine. These are machines chained together, and in this scenario, we're actually trying to compromise two domain controllers. So if you are studying for a cert like the OSCP or the PNPT or the CPTS or any of the other alphabet letter certifications that you're going for, if you're interested in learning Active Directory enumeration, hacking, or lateral movement, then you're going to really benefit from this series. Now this is part 4. So I'm going to dive right in from where we picked up in part 3. So if you feel a little bit lost, I do recommend watching part 1, part 2, and part 3 first. But hey, you can also begin right here. You'll be a little bit lost in the beginning, but you'll still learn a lot in the process. I also want to let you know that this video is brought to you by me. My course, Hands-on Phishing, is out right now. This course teaches you how to do full phishing campaigns from the perspective of a pen tester or a red teamer. You can see I cover everything from creating your own lab environment to configuring domains and configuring DNS. I'll click through here to setting up GoPhish, to using evil jinx to bypass MFA, to bypassing common defenses, to doing pretext calling, which means telephone spoofing, combining that with phishing emails to increase your chances of success, a course conclusion, and also some student projects. So when you go through the course, there's a lot of opportunities to make your own projects. If you send those to me, you could be included in the student project showcase. This course is available right now for only $34.99 for lifetime access, and if you enroll by August 5th, you will have a chance to win an OSCP voucher. That is an $1,800 value. I'll be doing the drawing live on stream. All that being said, let's dive into the hacking. One other thing is you might notice chat above my head. I'm actually making this video while I'm live streaming. If you have never been part of one of my live streams, you are missing out. So make sure you like, subscribe, and hit the bell notification so that you are notified the next time I am live. All that being said, let's dive right back on where we left off. So in part 3, we just finished compromising the E. Walters account, and we changed his password, and we verified that we had access to his account with NetExec. And I asked you at the end of part 3, what would be the next logical step for us to do? Well, the next logical step is we want to keep it simple, and we want to begin enumerating, hey, we have compromised E. Walters. What access does E. Walters have? And because we already read Bloodhound and collected all the loot, that's going to be really easy for us to do. So I'm going to open up Bloodhound, and we have E. Walters right here. We can actually mark him as owned because we just owned him. We're all E. Walters. I don't know why it zoomed in when I did that. But let me click into E. Walters, and it pulls him up over here. I recognize my face is blocking this, so I'm going to virtually run across my screen like a little virtual mouse thingy. And let's look at information about E. Walters. So when I scroll through here, we have he's a member of 4 different groups, and he doesn't have any outbound object control. So we can't actually control any other users. He can't reset users' passwords, but let's see if he's a member of any interesting groups. So he is a member of 4 different groups. We have remote desktop users, remote management users, domain users, and just regular users right there. Now, the group that stands out to me is both the remote management users and the remote desktop users. That means we should be able to get command line access or even RDP or GUI access to this domain controller. Let's take a screenshot of this and add it to our notes. And well, I'm just going to copy that and show that we are members of these 2 groups that are going to hopefully be helpful for our enumeration. And we have compromising E. Walters. I'll make like an H3. And we'll say enumerating E. Walters permissions. Drop in the screenshot right there. I'm going to make it a little bit smaller because we don't need to be that large. If I can go like that, and I'll just left align it real quick. So let's see if we actually have RDP access as E. Walters. So I'm going to go to my terminal here. I'm going to rename this tab RDP. What's in this tab? Nothing. I'm just going to close that tab out, and I'm going to use Remina to connect. Now you could use X-Free RDP, whatever you want, but I personally prefer Remina. I don't know if it's installed by default in Kali, but you should be able to install it with sudo apt install, not pat, apt install Remina, like so. And actually, Oh yeah, here it is. I do have it installed. Beautiful. So now with Remina, let's see if we can connect to this. And I think the IP, I think it's the lab DC. Here, I need to check. By cat.etsy hosts, it is this one, lab.trusted.vl. So I'm going to try to go to that. We'll say yes, accept certificate, and we're E. Walters, and we change his password to hacksmarter123 exclamation mark. You can see it right there, and we will hit OK to log in. Okay, so it says to sign in remotely, you need the right to sign. Wait, to sign in remotely, you need the right to sign remote desktop services. By default, members. Okay, the message is clearly cut off. Members administrators group have this right. If the group doesn't have this right, I thought I was in that group. Wait, what group am I in? Remote desktop users, right? Would that not give me access to remote desktop services? Can I access this machine through Hack the Box? Not yet. Not all of Vulnlab content has been brought over to Hack the Box. Okay. Well, that is odd. Let's see if we can use WinRM to access it. ewalters-p hacksmarter123 exclamation mark I lab.trusted.vl. Okay, so we cannot access with RDP, but we are able to access with WinRM, and we can do that because our user is in the remote management users group. So if we do who am I, we do have a full remote shell. Let's grab this and add it to our notes. So we can show this. We have remote access as E. Walters. And we'll make this smaller. Drop it over to the side. And now we can begin just digging through the file system. Step number one, and you won't see this in the real world, but we may or may not have access to the user flag. I have a feeling since there's two domain controllers, we might need like domain admin access on here to get access to the user flag. But if you're doing a CTF for a lab, it's often on the desktop of the user. So if I do dir, we actually do have a user.txt right there. Now, I'm not going to show you the flag because I don't want you just to flag snipe from watching this video. But with the E. Walters user, we do have access to that flag. You just have to do type user.txt to get the flag information. But I'm not going to do that for you. I've shown you every single step you need to do to gain access to the user flag. I'll let you get that user flag yourself. But now we want to begin doing just some basic Windows enumeration. When it comes to Windows enumeration, I always recommend keeping it simple. The whole KISS principle, keep it simple, stupid. And what I mean by that is just begin looking at your current user and see if we have access to anything else. Oh, thank you. Yeah, I'll move the video. I appreciate you calling that out. I always forget to move it back and forth. There we go. Now you guys can actually see the file system. Begin hunt. You're the real MVP for reminding me to move myself. All right, now that we have that moved and me out of the way, let's take a look at what we're able to find. So anyways, there's user.txt right there on the desktop, but I'm going to back out one directory and just see what other users are on this machine. So we have another user called C Powers. I don't know if we're going to have to compromise C Powers or not to get to the next part, but let's go ahead and just drop in. I'm just going to keep underneath remote access as E. Walters, and we'll just say, I'm just going to drop a code block. So we have another user named C Powers. We may or may not have to compromise them. We'll go back into E. Walters. And does dir force work? So dir-force, what I just did, is going to show hidden files. When you're doing a real-world pen test, or especially in a CTF, if you don't do dir-force, you might miss something that might be important. So dir-force, I'll show you the difference. When I do dir-force, you can see everything we're able to see. If I just do dir, it's significantly less folders that we're able to look into. So app data and application data could be helpful depending on if there's like password saved to a browser. Same with cookies. I don't know if that's going to be the case on this machine, but it's worth looking into. So if we go into app data, we can look at like local, And literally, I'm just looking around for anything. Now, I know there's tools that automate this process for you, but if you imagine that you're on a red team and you just compromised a user's account, you don't want to just run WinPs and try to YOLO your way to privilege escalation. The more that you can live off the land and just like look through the file system as a normal user would, the more that you can remain under the radar of the blue team. So I'm curious, is there anything interesting like an application data? dir.force, we don't have access to that. I think that those folders are probably going to be a rabbit hole, but in a real pen test, those are always worth looking into. Let me check out, was there anything else in desktop actually, besides the flag? We have Robot Cat. Okay, that's cool. And we'll CD to documents. Maybe there's something interesting in our users' documents. Nope, there is nothing interesting in our users' documents. We could always check things like downloads. I doubt there's going to be anything interesting here. I will check just for the fun of it. And there isn't. So I'm going to go back out to the root of the file system here in the C directory. And I just want to see, are there any interesting files here? So when I do dir force, you guys tell me. I'm going to get a drink of water, but for those of you watching on the live stream, do you see any directories that stand out to you that you think might be worth digging into, either for a CTF or in a real pen test? I also know there's a little bit of a delay. I don't know how much the delay is between when I'm talking right now and when it's going over the stream. But if you're thinking to yourself, what I want to look into is AVTest, I would agree with you. The rest of these are like standard Windows stuff that might be worth digging into, but you always want to first begin with any folder or directory that is out of the ordinary. And AVTest is definitely out of the ordinary. So I'm going to grab a screenshot of this. We'll go like this, and I'm going to highlight this as something out of the ordinary and drop that in our notes. I don't know why it opened bookmarks when I did that. I wish there's a way in Flameshot to say like, hey, all my files or all my images I paste in, like just keep them small. We don't need to look into it. And I'm going to say AVTest is a directory that is not standard. It's likely worth looking into. So let's look into it. We'll change directory into AVTest. dir force, so we see any hidden files. And we have the Kaspersky removal tool in a README. All right. This box is trusted. It's actually an AD chain. It's multiple machines tied together. It's not TryHackMe, it's Vulnlab. Check out Vulnlab, not VulnHub, Vulnlab. Let me see what the readme.txt says. Since none of the AV tools we tried here in the lab satisfied our needs, it is time to clean them up. I asked Christine to run them a few times just to be sure. Let's just hope we don't have to set this lab up again because of this. Okay. So we'll drop this README file in right there. So what does this README file tell us? Well, it says that they have tried multiple AV tools. We don't know why. They are working on cleaning up the tools. Christine is supposed to run the cleanups. This might point to like a scheduled job. And the reason I think that is if Christine is supposed to run the cleanup a few times, maybe there's a scheduled job that's supposed to act like Christine and it's running like this cleanup tool over and over again on the back end. Like there's a bot, not like a real Christine, but automation built into the machine to make it more realistic. So maybe there is a scheduled task or a scheduled job that is running this Kaspersky cleanup.exe multiple times. So if we can somehow modify that binary, maybe it will run as Christine, which I'm guessing is C powers. Let's put that in parentheses, like that's the other user. So I'm going to guess, educated guess that the other user's user account is C powers. And potentially there's a scheduled job or task. I didn't want to do that. Okay, go like that. No, we don't actually need to run a task. but a scheduled job or task that might be running as Christine Powers. Begin Hunt said, for manual enumeration, is exploring each directory a best methodology? Are there any other methods for manual enum? Truly, you go pretty far with manual enumeration if you just take the time to explore different directories. On a real pen test, I actually really enjoy this because, of course, in a CTF, there's very much an intended path you need to go into. But when I compromise a Windows environment or even SMB on a real pen test, you can find all kinds of juicy information about the org and ways that you can reuse that. And I love that about real pen testing. It's not just one way. There's usually multiple ways to compromise things. There's really no such thing as a rabbit hole in a real pen test because rabbit holes will often lead to fruitful discoveries for the engagement. Talking too much. Well, let's go ahead and check out this directory. So we know that I'm pretty sure C Powers is running Kaspersky removal tool.exe. So a few thoughts I have. If we can write to this directory, potentially we can just replace this tool, this .exe, with like a Metasploit binary that C Powers will run and it will reach back out to our machine. So that's my initial thought of how we might be able to compromise this. But to do that, let's just first see like, I don't know if it's touch. I think it is. We'll do touch hacksmarter.txt. Did I break the machine? Did it fail? Maybe touch doesn't actually work in PowerShell. I'm thinking of Linux. We might just have to echo into a file. Okay. The term touch, yeah, okay, I got you. Let me echo hello. Does that work? Okay, cool. So type readme.txt. So I can modify files here. That is interesting. I'm actually really curious now. If I open up a new tab, if I do like nano hack all the things.exe, I'm obviously not gonna, we'll do touch hack all the things.exe. I just want to create like a fake binary and open up a Python web server. Can I download to this directory? We'll do wget from my IP 10.8.4.163. Hack all the things.exe, out file hack all the things.exe. Yes, so I can actually write to this directory. So let me copy that. We'll drop a screenshot here as a POC. So then my question is, can I replace the Kaspersky removal tool? So if I move Kaspersky removal tool.exe to Kaspersky removal tool backup.exe, so that actually worked. Now if I move hack all the things.exe to Kaspersky removal tool.exe, so I am able to do that. Interesting. What's my stream schedule? Just most nights you can catch me. I don't have a set schedule. Wednesday nights is my set schedule, but I try to stream, 2 to 4 times a week, depending on if I have other interviews I'm doing on different channels in the evening. Some weeks are really busy where I'm working at night, but I just can't stream because I'm doing stuff with other people. But anyways, we are able to just do our own binary. I feel like that's too easy though. This isn't going to work. It's going to be more difficult, I'm pretty sure, but let's give it a shot. I personally always forget the MSF Venom syntax. I don't know about you guys. When I did the OSCP, I had all of these memorized just because I did them so much when I was preparing for the exam, but now I don't make MSF Venom payloads very often at all. so I forget the syntax. What we want to do is we want to try to make a Windows interpreter reverse shell. And so we can grab this one right here. And we want to give it our lhost IP, which is 10.8.4.163. We'll do port of like 443 so it looks legit. And we can call this HackSmarter 443 so we know what port it's on. We'll give that just a second to make our malicious binary. I don't think we're dealing with any AV on this machine, but we'll find out to see if it deletes our stuff. I want to open up my Python web server again. And then we can wget from our machine 10.8.4.163. And I actually forgot what I already called it. HackSmarter 443. We'll just call it hacksmarter.exe on the target machine. And I'm going to rename this as WinRM. We'll rename this as our web server. And I want to open up a new one for Metasploit. Oh, not MSF Venom, MSF Council is what I meant to type. We'll name this Metasploit. And we're going to set up a multi-handler, which if you're new to Metasploit, a multi-handler is just a way to catch the connection. So if cPowers does just run our binary, and we'll be able to catch that reverse shell connection in Metasploit to do some post-exploitation work as cPowers. So that's at least going to be the goal. I need to copy the payload type right here. I'll show you why that matters in a moment. If we search for a handler, you can see, well, it should just be the multi-handler. I think it's just called multi-handler, right? In Metasploit. Yeah. Use 7. If we do options here, there's a few things that we want to configure. One, we want to set payload to match the interpreter payload. And then we want to set our lhost to match RIP 10.8.4.163 and set the L port to match 443. And then we want to run it. There we go. We have our reverse TCP handler listening. And now we can jump back over to the WinRM session. And HackSmarter.exe is still there. So I'm going to remove Kaspersky removal tool.exe. And I'm going to move HackSmarter.exe as Kaspersky removal tool.exe. And now if there's a scheduled task, hopefully cPowers runs our tool. I don't know how long we would have to wait. In the meantime, we could also just continue doing our enumeration and just give this a little bit of time to see if it is going to run as a cPowers user. So when it comes to doing some basic Windows enumeration on the file system, we can also look into things like program file. So let's do that together. We'll go to program files and see if there's anything interesting in program files. Maybe a file that we can use privilege escalation on. There's nothing interesting here besides Notepad++ isn't usually installed. But I don't think there's anything in here that would actually allow us to exploit it. Like I can't imagine credentials would be stored in like an XML file. So a way to look at a cron job in Windows, there is. But honestly, there's a good chance we wouldn't have access to see the actual cron job that's running. We go to program files x86. Nothing there. I mean, so if this is a real pen test, knowing that AWS is on the machine, there's a lot of cool AWS specific attacks you could do. We could try to hit what's called the metadata endpoint, which would allow you to take down credentials for the AWS environment. I've actually done this in the real world when I compromised an EC2. EC2 is just a name for a virtual machine in the cloud, and I'm able to then query the metadata endpoint in AWS, pull down an access key in a secret, use that to authenticate to their AWS account, and then perform lateral movement from their on-domain network to their AWS network. If that sounds like a foreign language to you, guess what? I have an entire course called Intro to AWS Pentesting that covers that attack path and much more. That course will bring you from beginner level to intermediate in AWS pentesting with 2 custom capstone challenges at the end designed by me. So if you want to learn AWS pentesting, check out my course. You'll enjoy it. How did you guys like how I built that commercial directly in here? I totally wasn't planning that, but that popped in my head when I saw the AWS tooling. All right, looking at Metasploit. Oh. Wait, did we get a session there for a second? $1,426. We got it, but then it died. Whoa, look at that. From what I can see, we have compromised C powers by uploading a different binary, and we now have access to the C powers user. I was not expecting that to work, but it did, ladies and gentlemen. Let's grab a screenshot of that and jump over to this, and we have compromised C powers. Drop it in. If I can, make this a little bit smaller, drop this over here. Come on, there we go. As the C powers user, now looking over at the time, this is actually a good and natural stopping point to end part 4 of our series of working through this trusted AD chain. Here's my challenge to you. If you've been following along in this series, before you watch part 5, if you have a Vulnlab subscription, try it on your own. Pick up where we left off and see how far you're able to get. If you don't have a Vulnlab subscription, I still want you to pause and think to yourself, okay, we just compromised another user in potentially the AD environment. What are some things that we should check right away to get a lay of the land as this new user? So try it on your own, or at least think through it on your own, and then join me in part 5 as we continue what I think is a really cool series working through this AD chain on Vulnlab. So hey, thank you so much for watching. I will catch you in the next one.